ISS, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, ISS is ready for the event.
Endeavour ISS, this is Houston ACR. Please stand by for the NASA Explorer School questions.
Question is, where do they sleep on the spaceship?
Standing by. Where do we sleep on the station? That is a great question because the space station is a really big place. The last few nights I've been sleeping in the Columbus module or the European module, which is right there. And a few people sleep on the space station. Some of us have slept in the Japanese module, which is right there, called the GEM or Kibo. Last night, one of us slept in Node 3 down there. And the space station crew members sleep all around the space station. So we kind of spread out at night. It's a really great place to sleep.
Hi, my name is Aaron Lee from Stewart Middle Magnet in Tampa, Florida. Our teachers took us on a camp out near the Kennedy Space Center so we could get up at 4 a.m. to see your shuttle launch, and it was awesome. But my question is, why did you have to launch so early?
Well, first of all, we'd like to apologize for making everyone get up so early. We were up pretty early ourselves. The time of a launch is determined by the orbit of the International Space Station. We need to be able to launch from Florida and to catch up to the International Space Station to rendezvous and dock. And we want to do that with the minimal amount of fuel that we expend, because remember, everything that we lift off of the pad, it cost us basically our amount that we can take to orbit. So we don't want to have to take any extra fuel that we don't really need to orbit. So we have to stay to these very tight little short launch windows to be able to catch up to the International Space Station. So again, sorry for the time, but hope you enjoyed the light show.
Hi, my name is Clutcher Hiri, and I am from Edward Harris Junior Middle School in Elk Grove, California. My generation has a bright future. What do you think we'll be doing in the next 10 or 20 years as far as space exploration is concerned? Thank you.
Well, that's a great question, and I'm very excited about the future. Right now, we've been able to build this space station where people we've already shown that we can live and work in space for a long time. We've been building a lot of hardware and equipment to teach us how to live and go on longer missions. And I think that we will be able to go to places like the moon and Mars in the not too distant future. And I think that's going to be a really exciting time as humanity expands out into the solar system.
Hi, I'm Daniel Lorenzo from Stewart Middle Magnet School in Tampa, Florida. And my question to you is, how long do you guys have to train before going into outer space?
Well, that's a great question. You could generally answer that question all your life, because every experience that we have, every bit of knowledge that we have sure comes into play when we're here in space, because you never know what's going to happen next. But generally, for a space shuttle mission, we train for a minimum of a year specifically for the task that we're going to do on board that mission. Prior to that, though, we all train generically as astronauts for 1 to 2 to multiple years before we get assigned to a flight. So for a space shuttle mission, the training is a minimum of a couple of years overall. For a space station mission where the crew members are staying for longer duration, they can train many years, because they train not only in the United States but also with our international partners. So it's multiple years of training, but of course prior to that, lots of years of schooling and experience that all comes into play.
My name is Summer Heckman, and I go to Vernon School in Portland, Oregon. And my question is, do you have issues with keeping things clean on the space station? And if so, is it possible for mold to grow in space or on the space station?
That is a really, really good question because it is a big issue. The space station and the space shuttle both have very good air circulation systems with fans and filters to keep stuff clean, but everything floats. There's no gravity. So on Earth, it's really nice. You can see there things float. If you have dust or lint or just anything like that, it tends to stick or it tends to fall to the ground and you can sweep it up. In space, it doesn't. It floats around and you see little specks of things floating by occasionally. And when you drink in your water straw, unless you get all of the water out of your straw, when it comes out of your mouth, it might flick a couple little specks of water, and over time those can grow mold. So we spend a lot of time on the shuttle keeping things clean, and the space station crew spends a lot of time, probably once a week, just keeping things clean, because we have seen mold grow in the past. And in fact, right around the corner down there, you can see there's some plants growing. So things can grow in space, and that's why it's really important for us to keep it clean.
Hi, my name is Maya, and I would like to know how long does it take to prepare the space shuttle before it launches?
Well, as you know, the space shuttle is a very complicated spacecraft, so it does take a while, and it takes a lot of people, quite a great team of people that prepare the space shuttle for launch. And you know, space shuttle is made up of several components. There's a space shuttle orbiter. There are the solid rocket boosters. Those are the two white rockets that strap to the sides, and then there's a big orange external tank that holds our fuel. So to get all of those components together, it takes quite a bit of time. The absolute minimum amount of time from the time that a space shuttle orbiter lands until the time that it can launch again is about 2 months, but that's very, very aggressive schedule. It takes longer actually to prepare the tank and the solid rocket boosters. Those would have to be waiting for it. So after landing, the team in Florida processes the orbiter in a horizontal position, like working on an aircraft in a hangar, and then they rotate it into the vertical position and attach it to that solid rocket boosters and the external tank, and take all of that together out to the launch pad and get it ready to launch again. So it actually takes quite a bit of time, but it can vary depending on what our schedule is.
Hi, I'm Mikaela from Stewart Middle Magnet School in Tampa, Florida. I was wondering, what is the purpose of mounting the cupola on the bottom of Tranquility instead of the top?
Well, that's another good question. The bottom of Tranquility, putting the cupola on the bottom of Node 3 or Tranquility gives us several things. It gives us a good view. You can look around the module to the front and also to the back of the space station, which is going to help when we do robotic operations. When we move the big robotic arm from there, it will give us a big view in a lot of different directions. And eventually there will be some modules that, in fact, we've already grappled them, but a module called an HTV, which is a cargo ship made by the Japanese space agency, and when that comes up, you have to grab it with the arm and then you attach it to the station. And so having the cupola there will help with that. And another added bonus as astronauts is it's pointed towards the Earth, so we'll get great Earth views from that when we get it mated and opened up here soon.
Hi, I'm Hannah from Stewart Middle Magnet School in Tampa, Florida. I have a question. What was the most difficult obstacle that you had to overcome to become an astronaut? Thanks.
Well, I don't know that I'd really call it obstacles, but it is very important to have a good, strong math and science background to be even considered to be an astronaut, but also just overall technical experience, and it really helps to have some flying experience as well. So I don't know that, again, that I would really call it an obstacle, but there are so many very qualified folks, very, very smart, very educated, and with a lot of experience, that NASA has a tough time selecting the astronauts from so many qualified candidates. So maybe I just feel that I was very fortunate to be considered for selection as an astronaut. and also that I was selected. So I would suggest that you just keep studying hard and find the things that you love to do and gain your own expertise there and apply to be an astronaut, and hopefully someday you'll be able to fly in space as well, as you saw two fellow astronauts floating right by.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, my name is Taylor Church, and I go to Edward Harris Junior Middle School in Elk Grove, California. Have you ever personally tried growing plants in space? If so, how did the experiment turn out? And if not, have you ever been on board a mission where a plant experiment has taken place? Thank you.
Yeah, that is a great question. Actually, in the next module down for me, we're in Node 2. So in the lab, the U.S. lab, there are several big bags where plants are growing right now. It's one of their experiments. And in fact, the space station is a very big laboratory. There's a Japanese lab, a U.S. lab, and a European lab. And plus the Russians have their own experiments going in their segment. So there's a lot of different experiments happening here. On our space shuttle, our main job was to bring up Node 3 and Tranquility, but we have some experiments also. We have some basically vaccination testing, and there are some viruses down there that we're doing some testing and experiments on, but there's lots of experiments going on here. And as you can see, this is we're in like the central hub here, so there's a lot of traffic going on. And so pardon our crewmates as they translate by with important hardware.
My name is Juliana, Lara, and I'm from Goldsboro Elementary in Sanford, Florida. What feelings do you have while waiting to launch?
Well, that's a very good question. What feelings we have? I think probably the best way I might be able to describe that is actually kind of timely right now. I've never been an Olympic athlete, but I can imagine that Olympic athletes train for many years with super support teams behind them, their coaches, their trainers, their families supporting them, and they finally get to the point where they can go and compete in the actual Olympics in their sport and in their event. I feel like it must be very similar to astronauts going to launch. We train very hard for many years with these wonderful support teams that we have, preparing the spacecraft, training us for the tasks that we're going to perform, and taking care of all of our procedures and tasks that we're going to have on orbit. And everybody supports us and basically is cheering us on as we go launch day out to get into the space shuttle to launch. It's that type of anticipation, just that we really just want to go and get on with the task that we were trained to do.
One more thing to add to that one. We got to launch on Super Bowl Sunday. So like what Kay said, it was probably similar. But except for the differences, we're strapped to 4 million pounds of high explosive fuel. I'm sorry, go ahead with the next question.
Hi, my name is Praveena Ramlal, and I go to Stewart Middle Magnet, and I live in Tampa, Florida. My question is, why will NASA scrub a launch if the sky is cloudy or rainy?
Again, a very appropriate question for us because our first launch attempt was scrubbed because of clouds, and there's a couple of problems with clouds and rain. First of all is our rocket itself. You don't want to damage the space shuttle, so if you fly through certain types of clouds with lightning or rain, you could get a lightning strike, which actually happened on one of our Apollo missions. And if you fly through rain, the rain could damage the vehicle because we accelerate really fast. We're going about 100 miles an hour by the time we clear the launch tower, and in less than a minute we're going supersonic straight up. So the rocket goes very fast through the air, and so that could be dangerous. The other thing is we want ground cameras to be able to see the shuttle, or whatever rocket it is. When we're launching unmanned rockets, it's the same thing. They need some visibility to be able to see it to make sure that the trajectory is going in the right direction.
My name is Kahleil Johnson. I go to Vernon School in Portland, Oregon, and my question is, if the facilities for exercising in space fail, do you think you train by yourself, and if so, how and what would you use to train?
Oh, exercise is very important in space. What happens to our bodies in space is very similar to what would happen to a patient in a hospital, let's say, if they were totally bedridden and told they had to stay laying down and couldn't get up and walk. So it means that our muscles atrophy, or they get smaller because they're not being used, and even our bones, we lose calcium and the bones get weaker as well. So it is important for us to exercise in space. We do have some great exercise equipment here on the International Space Station. We have something like a bicycle. We call it a cycle ergometer, and we can dial in different tension on there. We also have a treadmill, but we have to use bungees to hold us down to the treadmill to be able to run on the treadmill. If those facilities break, then what we have to do, since you can't like lift weights because it's mass, but it has no feeling of weight here in weightlessness, so we would get bungees, something like this hairband here, that we just use stretch bands type things to try to at least work our muscles a little bit, and we use some of those anyway. And it's a good question because while we are outfitting Node 3 that we just delivered, we are moving some of the exercise equipment in there. So there is a period of time when the exercise equipment is not going to be available, and we will have members on board using stretch type bands to give some resistance training for exercise during that period of time.
Hi, my name is Sabrina, and I want to know what kind of tools you use to fix the space shuttle.
Well, hello, Sabrina. Thank you for that question. That is a really good one. We have a toolkit in the space shuttle, and we have several toolkits here on the space station. And one of the biggest things that we've been doing here during our mission, and Kay is just showing me this bag. If you hear it, it sounds like wind chimes. But there's a wrench and some pliers and some different types of screwdrivers and ratchets and scissors. There's all kinds of stuff here, sockets. And so if you're a tool person, this job is really fun because for the last several days and for the next few days, we are in there turning wrenches and screwdrivers and all kinds of stuff to attach Node 3, our new module, and then later today to move the cupola and to attach that. So we have lots of tools, and we use them a lot.
Hello, my name is Aidan, and I want to know if it's dangerous to do a spacewalk.
Well, it's kind of dangerous, and I'll tell you why. When we send astronauts outside of the spacecraft, they're wearing an extravehicular mobility unit, and they're doing a spacewalk outside all by themselves, so that means that they're actually wearing their own spacecraft. In that suit, it actually contains its own power, electrical power, its own heating and cooling, its own communications and pressurization system, oxygen system, all that, and even a caution and warning, a system that tells them if something's going wrong. So that's all in itself its own little spacecraft. And that the astronauts contained inside of there, and outside of that is just the vacuum of space. It's also physically challenging because they have to work against that suit the whole time. So it is a little bit dangerous, but we choreograph it, or we plan it to every little detail, and we check those suits, and they have redundant or multiple systems to make sure that if one system fails, we have a backup. So we watch them very carefully and keep it as safe as we can, but it is very challenging.
Hello, my name is Dexter, and my question is, what does it feel like when you blast off into space?
Well, hi, Dexter. Thanks for that question. The first thing that you feel is being stuffed into this big orange, stiff, heavy suit. It's called a launch and entry suit. And we get strapped in and we lay on our backs for about 3 hours before launch. And then when it finally comes time to launch, the shuttle main engines start up 6 seconds before launch. So the whole shuttle pitches forward a little bit, and then it pitches back, and 6 seconds later, the solid rocket boosters light, and those are the big white rockets on the side. And when those things light, it's like a kick in the pants. You get slammed from behind, and you start accelerating forward. And as you accelerate, you feel heavier and heavier. It's like you're laying on your back and someone's laying on top of you. And that shakes and rolls and makes a lot of noise for about 2 minutes. And then after 2 minutes, the solid rocket boosters run out of gas. And so you start to slow down. You don't accelerate as much. You slow down. And then when they come off, there's a really loud bang and a super bright flash. We launched at nighttime. And we even mentioned it. We were looking out the window and we said, well, that wasn't too bad. And then, bam, these rockets fired. And there was this big white flash and the solid rockets floated away. And then the space shuttle main engines burn for the next 6 minutes. And that's pretty smooth. You just lay there. You get pushed from above, pushed from like someone in front of you laying on top of you for about 6 more minutes. And then after 8.5 minutes, you're in space. And so right before the engine shut down, you're being pushed with 3 Gs, which is like 3 times your own body weight smashing down. And then when the engine shut down, everyone goes flying forward. And then you can let go and things are floating. And so it's a pretty cool ride. One of the things that happened on our flight, as we were going up, I took a quick glance out the window and I could see the moon. And the shuttle did a roll to heads up, and I could see the whole east coast of America at nighttime lit up, and that memory will stick in my mind forever. And then right after the engine shut down, just a couple minutes later, we were flying over the Alps in Europe. So it was a really pretty experience to go from nighttime, all of that shaking and vibrating, and then floating over Europe.
Endeavour ISS, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thanks.
Thank you, ISS and NASA Explorer Schools. We are now resuming nominal audio communications.
Copy that, Houston. Thanks, kids. Good questions.
Put everything back, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.